said, but the drug stocks have seen this coming for a while. Do you disagree with that? I mean, what are you hearing from your sources?
Well, there has been discussion about this, Sue, but remember, the probability that the Democrats would control the U.S. Senate has not been on the front burner. By and large, the market believed, and has believed for a while, that the House would be won by the Democrats, but not that the Senate would be won by the Democrats. That's why you're seeing a little bit of headline risk today. It's true that drug stocks moved up rather nicely in the last few weeks because most people felt that President Bush would successfully be able to veto any attempts to impose the beginnings of some kind of price control
and Bob,
in
he
Medicare
still might
pricing.
be able to successfully veto. You know, Democrats do not have a veto-proof majority in the Senate, and the president, if you talk to his aides, regards this as price controls, and this may be one where he doesn't mind a fight.
But John, you've got to admit, though, the pressure on the president on this particular issue is now a lot greater with this if the Senate comes under the control of the Democrats. And that's why you're seeing some downward pressure on drug stocks here, because the headline risk is a little bit greater with the Democrats in control of the Senate. There'd definitely be a little bit more pressure on the president.
Turn to defense stocks, Bob. With the resignation of Donald Rumsfeld, according to these Republican officials, how does that affect, what are they doing right now, these stocks in particular? Halliburton obviously comes to mind, but there are other defense stocks with a great stake in getting a lot of business out of the situation in Iraq.
Defense stocks generally have been down 0.5% to 1% on the day. And so this is a story that's been going around for weeks. The analysts have been very adamant. It is very unlikely we're going to see any dramatic cuts in defense spending. As a result, the analysts and the community down here has generally been of the feeling that if you see any weakness in defense stocks, buy that particular weakness. And that's certainly, that scenario is playing out today. Moderate headline risk, down fractionally in defense stocks. I'd be surprised to see them down for very long periods.
Eamon Javers of Business Week rejoins us. Eamon, your reaction to the news that Donald Rumsfeld is going to resign, according to Republican officials. Are you with me, Eamon?
Yeah, I'm here now. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you in to President Bush?
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Thank you. Say, wow, the glum faces. Yesterday, the people went to the polls, and they cast their vote for a new direction in the House of Representatives. And while the ballots are still being counted in the Senate, it is clear the Democrat Party had a good night last night. And I congratulate them on their victories. This morning, I spoke with Republican and Democrat leadership in the House and the Senate. I spoke with Republican leaders, Senator Frist and Senator McConnell and Speaker Hastert and John Boehner and Roy Blunt. I thanked them for their hard-fought contest. I appreciate the efforts they put in for our candidates. I'm obviously disappointed with the outcome of the election, and as the head of the Republican Party, I share a large part of the responsibility. I told my party's leaders that it is now our duty to put the elections behind us and work together with the Democrats and independents on the great issues facing this country. This morning I also spoke with the Democrats. I spoke with Senators Reid and Durbin. I congratulated them on running a strong campaign in the Senate. And I told them that regardless of the final outcome, we can work together over the next 2 years. I also congratulated Congresswoman Pelosi and Congressman Hoyer. They ran a disciplined campaign. Their candidates were well organized and did a superb job of turning out their votes. I told Congresswoman Pelosi that I look forward to working with her and her colleagues to find common ground in the next 2 years. As the majority party in the House of Representatives, they recognize that in their new role they now have greater responsibilities. And in my first act of bipartisan outreach since the election, I shared with her the names of some Republican interior decorators who can help her pick out the new drapes in her new offices. I believe that the leaders of both political parties must try to work through our differences. And I believe we will be able to work through differences. I've reassured the House and Senate leaders that I intend to work with the new Congress in a bipartisan way to address issues confronting this country. I invited them to come to the White House in the coming days to discuss the important work remaining this year and to begin conversations about the agenda for next year. The message yesterday was clear. The American people want their leaders in Washington to set aside partisan differences, conduct ourselves in an ethical manner, and work together to address the challenges facing our nation. We live in historic times. The challenges and opportunities are plain for all to see. Will this country continue to strengthen our economy? Today and over the long run, will we provide a first-class education for our children? And will we be prepared for the global challenges of the 21st century? Will we build upon the recent progress we've made in addressing our energy dependence by aggressively pursuing new technologies to break our addiction to foreign sources of energy? And most importantly, will this generation of leaders meet our obligation to protect the American people? I know there's a lot of speculation on what the election means for the battle we're waging in Iraq. I recognize that many Americans voted last night to register their displeasure with the lack of progress being made there. Yet I also believe most Americans and leaders here in Washington from both political parties understand we cannot accept defeat. In the coming days and weeks, I and members of my national security team will meet with the members of both parties to brief them on latest developments and listen to their views about the way forward. We'll also provide briefings to the new members of Congress so they can be fully informed as they prepare for their new responsibilities. As we work with the new leaders in Congress, I'm also looking forward to hearing the views of the Bipartisan Iraq Study Group, co-chaired by Secretary James Baker and Congressman Lee Hamilton. This group is assessing the situation in Iraq and the group is expected to provide recommendations on a way forward. And I'm going to meet with them, I think, early next week. The election has changed many things in Washington, but it has not changed my fundamental responsibility, and that is to protect the American people from attack.